Hey guys, it's Chloe. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be super exciting. The day literally couldn't come soon enough because I am driving the all-new 2024 Toyota Tacoma. Now, if you don't know, Toyota completely redesigned the Tacoma for this year, 2024. So there have been a lot of big changes, and honestly, there is so much to unpack. But some of the big things are, one, from the previous generation. Now, in this truck, we no longer have the V6 engine. We are at a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Now, there is a hybrid variant available, the I-Force Max. I, right now, today, am driving the just turbocharged for non-hybrid. I am in a TRD Sport, but this thing has quite a bit of power and it's got an increase in torque as well, so I'm super stoked. The exterior styling has also changed quite a bit. There are a lot of new colors. The interior is completely different. It's definitely more modernized than the previous generation. Now, in this new generation, we have two new grades, the TRD PreRunner and also the top-of-the-line Trail Hunter. What else? There is so much more. The suspension, oh my gosh, I almost forgot about that, is completely new as well. Again, there's so much to unpack, a lot of new features for this model year, and there's lots of videos here on YouTube of people doing reviews, going through all these features. I myself have a couple of videos walking around some of the newer 2024 Tacomas on my channel that I'll link down below. But today, I'm out here at a Toyota Drive event in beautiful Malibu, California. We kind of have less than ideal conditions right now. It was fine this morning, but now it's kind of downpouring a little bit. But yeah, in this video, I just hope to deliver from the average everyday driver what really driving a new 2024 Tacoma is going to be like. Let's get into it. I seriously could not be more excited to share with you guys how I reacted to sitting in this truck and driving it on the street. I also took one of the new Tacomas on a really fun off-road course, but my impressions and reactions to that will be in my next video, part 2. This one is going to be solely focused on what driving the 2024 Tacoma on the road is like. And also just particularly how it feels different than my current Tacoma, which I'm sitting in right now. It's a 2019 TRD off-road that I daily. And I have to mention, those of you who are super Tacoma enthusiasts might recognize the man sitting next to me in a lot of these clips who took turns driving with me. This is Mateo from Tacoma Beast, and he will be sharing the experience from his perspective on his channel, so be sure to check that video out too. So there was no shortage of Tacomas to drive this day, a variety of grades with everything from the SR to TRDs to the Limited, all 4-cylinder gas models as I mentioned. Some trucks I had out here were even manuals, but we decided to start out with this TRD Sport in blue crushed metallic, which is what I spent the most time in. And since we were driving on the street, I thought this was going to be a fun one because it comes with sport tuned suspension and has an upgraded TRD mesh grille with the classic and unique hood scoop. And since I know somebody's going to ask about this, yes, it does have a big air dam in the front, but rest assured, it's removable. Here is a list of options on all this truck specifically if you want to pause and look, but I'm excited to be sharing the pricing on this Tacoma. MSRP without options, this truck is $42,600. Let's get it driving. Test out this trusty TRD Sport on the road.
You ready?
I'm more than ready. Let's go!
Let's go!
I already feel suspension characteristics are completely different.
First impressions?
That's nice. Not too bad.
Nice. It does feel a little bit like the in a way like the third gen one is stock.
Yeah.
A little bit softer.
Yeah, but keep in mind, guys, we're in a TRD Sport.
Yeah.
Not quite in the off-road yet.
Yeah.
It's still very reminiscent of the Gen 3 though. Like, as much as things have changed, I feel like you still feel like you're in a Tacoma, which I like.
They kept the DNA, right?
Yes.
Intact. Right now we're at a red light. I'm gonna step on it.
Yeah, step on it. See if it's got any lag. I want to see.
Let's see. This is the moment of truth here. Here it goes. Ready? Oh!
Wow!
Whoa.
Okay, that wasn't too bad. Wait, that...
Did you feel that?
Yeah, I felt that. I've never felt that in a Tacoma before.
Did you? I think it was third gear.
Yeah.
It was like, woo.
Yeah, I felt that torque.
That was cool.
And we're not even in the hybrid motor either.
Yeah, I know. This is basically what is
278 horsepower.
Which is not much higher than the current third gen,
It's
right?
the same power figures as the V6 option in the third gen. Although we do have more torque, which is what I think we were feeling.
But that powertrain was different. Did you feel that?
I felt that. I don't think I felt that in a Tacoma ever before.
Oh, yes!
Right off the line, even though I hadn't sat in the driver's seat yet, I hope you could tell by my reaction that this truck, even though now it is a 4-cylinder and not like the V6 option that we had in the previous gen, is responsive and packs a punch. And it really is, because seriously, I can't make this ridiculous face up. The acceleration I experienced with that turbocharged engine is pretty incredible for a mid-sized truck. And again, this is just the gas model. The hybrid iForce Max, which I hope to drive soon in the future, puts out even more power and torque. I just think people who are missing power and responsiveness in their current Tacomas are going to be pleasantly surprised when they get behind the wheel of this new truck. This thing punches.
Oh.
That's crazy, man. I wasn't even like thinking about a sport, but like now I'm like, I know I haven't even gotten in the off-road yet, but I love how this thing feels on road.
No, Chloe, this truck rips. You have to drive it.
Yeah. Well, I can feel it sitting in here. Again, like my Tacoma it could never.
It would never.
Yeah. That's the line for the title. It would never.
Would never. Wow.
Oh, I like that it doesn't, like, the front end doesn't nosedive that heavily when you're braking. Did you notice that? It was a nice, like, I know you weren't like braking super, super hard, but it wasn't a huge...
It doesn't jank you? The powertrain is 100% completely different.
Yeah. Quite a different feeling.
And I just felt what you said about the braking.
Yeah.
It doesn't nosedive.
Doesn't nosedive. Nice and controlled.
Maybe that has to do with the rear rotors.
Good point. We've got, finally.
Rear rotors, baby.
Exactly.
Yes.
Gone are the drums. Thank God.
Another thing I noticed, Chloe, and I cannot wait for you to drive it, the steering.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no resistance. It's so light. And that was one of the characteristics that I really liked about the Tacoma when I first bought it. I was like, man, the steering is really soft. And it just got like a lot softer. Obviously for a sporty truck, you would want it a little bit stiffer.
Yeah.
But just ride quality, people are gonna love this. So Chloe, check it out. We're going uphill right now.
Yeah.
Well, we can't really step on it, but one of the biggest concerns that I had is the 4th gen going to be chasing the 6th gear like the 3rd gens do?
This is a good point.
And so far, this truck just wants more. Like we're going uphill, and it wants more. It can give me more, and it's not chasing that gear. Ooh. You hear the tires squeaking?
It's not gear hunting. Man, you are really taking it around this. I love it. This is fun. I gotta drive with you more often.
They told us we were gonna get jerked around.
Oh yeah.
Are you dizzy?
They weren't
Let
lying.
me know you're dizzy and you need me to stop.
I thankfully wasn't getting dizzy, but I was eager to take the wheel after riding shotgun, so we swapped seats and it was my turn. Oh, I got chills. Let's go. Okay.
On record now.
Oh, you're right. The steering feels...
Right? You see how soft it feels?
Yeah. Wow, it's very interesting.
Well, it's electronic steering.
Wow. Yeah, this feels it's like different but the same at the same time. I already feel, again, suspension characteristics completely different. That rear end is not as stiff as my truck. I'm trying to take it all in. It's really hard to like compose my thoughts into like how I truly feel about the truck. But I'll say, like, just going up these hills, it just goes. Like,
do you feel like it's chasing the gear? No,
not at all. Like, not at all. I especially like how the throttle is nice and it's nice and touchy. I feel like, and right there, as I brake to go around this corner, the brakes are also nice and touchy as well. So I feel like there's a lot more control, and you don't have to like slam down on the gas to like, you know, get this thing to go. I heard that whistle. I keep hearing that whistle.
That whistle is gonna be so much fun.
Oh yeah.
That whistle's gonna be so much fun.
And the handling. I like the handling in the Sport, especially when you were driving it. That was a better
I got
test.
you nervous. I got you nervous.
But it was a good test of the handling characteristics, and I think it passed the test. Oh yeah. This thing goes.
Wow, Chloe, you just freaked me out going through that turn. I was like, whoa.
I know. I gotta test the suspension. Gotta see how tight the turns are. See how good this thing accelerates. The ride quality is something I want to emphasize because this Sport was tuned great for going up the windy road. You know, I mentioned it didn't ride as stiff as my own truck. The suspension felt looser, but also the rear end of this Sport has a coil spring multi-link rear suspension instead of leaf springs, something new to Tacoma, so I thought this was a big contributing factor. Actually, I thought before going into this whole event that with the linked rear, it would sway more around the turns, but again, I was pleasantly surprised because I felt in control. The handling was great. And then I mentioned the whistle too. We kept hearing that and I couldn't capture it that well on camera, but I have to just say, you know you're in a turbo when you're driving this truck.
Wow, look how big that screen is. I love it.
I'm a fan of the big screen as well. Like personally, they have a 10-inch option, right? And then or 8-inch option.
Yeah, 8-inch option, or which is standard, and then the upgraded version is the 14.
14. Yeah.
Which you've rocked the Stinger.
Yeah, I love the Stinger.
10 inches big. Yes. And now we get 14 inches.
Yeah, especially because the previous gen was like, when I measured it, I think it was like 7 inches, and that was across like almost every single model. So I feel like, I don't know, I'm a fan of the bigger screen. I use it as an aid. It's really nice, especially too, because this truck has a lot more camera options available. And I feel like with more cameras, you know, you want to have a bigger screen. So this is something that supports that, I think, much, much better. So just starting out, sitting in the driver's seat, sitting behind the wheel and getting a feel for the truck compared to the previous generation, which again, this review is going to be based a lot of because that is what I have been driving for the last 4 years. This truck has a lot of new, modernized, updated tech, but it also still, when you sit in it, for some reason, feels very reminiscent of the previous generation, which I really like. But some of these upgraded features like this large 14-inch head unit that's available in certain grades like this one, and this digital gauge cluster. I've never had a vehicle or really driven a vehicle with one of these. This is all pretty cool, but first off, what I love that they kept is still a physical shift knob. You know, I hate those newer modern vehicles that have like a lot of different buttons to press when you get into gear. I really like to be able to feel and then get into S and also be able to up and down shift. So I like that. We also have a lot of physical buttons, which is really, really great. And they kept things like the climate control knobs and the volume knobs, of course, off the screen. They are still physical knobs, which I really like. They moved the start button to the top, and check it out. It's got TRD and it's bright red all the way up here. So now it's no longer like next to all the climate controls. But one thing that they also moved that I really appreciate to down here is this select. So for the transfer case, when switching from 2 high to 4 high to 4 low, and also going into different modes like on the off-road trim into crawl control, downhill assist, it's all down here. You're not accidentally, you know, changing the climate control knob. What I like is, you know, in the previous gen, the in-cab noise it's pretty loud in there, especially, you know, when you upgrade tires too, like mud terrains, start putting 35s. Things get pretty loud in there, you know, and a lot of people sound dead in them. But this, I think I heard Sheldon, the lead engineer, say that some of these trucks had active noise cancellation. It is a lot more quiet. And again, I want to point out, we are on the stock tires, so we're not on, you know, some crazy mud terrain or all-terrain ELO rated tire. But
that is huge.
I like that, especially for the on-road experience. If you like, you know, the sport, I think that's going to be huge. I will say, when you're off-roading, like having auditory cues can actually be really, really nice. Like you think always about, you know, obviously the first thing is vision. You want to be able to see when you're going off-road. Feeling is another big one. But a lot of the off-roaders actually prefer to be able to hear what's going on outside of them. So I could see that as a slight drawback to them. I kind of find myself somewhere in the middle because, you know, I daily drive my own Tacoma, so I want, you know, a nice in-cabin on-road experience. But at the same time, off-roading, you know, it's very, very important to hear what's going on outside.
100%.
But
if your differential's dragging, you know.
Oh yeah.
But there's a solution to that. You put your windows down. And
that's right.
Right?
In my 3rd gen, I feel like, you know, when it's loud on the highway or something, mostly because of my tires, I'll just crank the music up a little more.
For me, on the 3rd gen, and I need to do the sound deadening on my 3rd gen because it's gotten to the point where like phone calls suck.
Oh.
You know?
I do notice that on my 3rd gen, I will have to maximize the volume completely in order to be able to hear. But that's not going to be a problem in this truck. One thing about the Sport is, you know, I know we've got the hood scoop. It looks fantastic. It is, and someone told me this, it's not short, you're vertically challenged. But the hood it's not impacting my visibility, but it's there, you know, and that's one of the reasons I like my off-road is because, you know, there's no hood scoop. I would say visibility is pretty comparable to the Gen 3, which I have, to be fully honest, you know, a little bit of trouble seeing in. Again, maybe this is not every person's problem. It's more of a Chloe Short issue. It's
no, but to your defense, I mean, I don't consider myself to be a short person, and yes, the hood scoop does get in the way. Even when the hood scoop's not there and you're off-roading, Tacomas are long, right? So because of it being so long up in the front, you do have that bit of visibility restraint. Like,
as I'm going up this hill and going around some of these tighter turns, I'm having to like bob my head around like a little bit, I'm noticing. But again, I don't think it's worse than the previous generation. It's just about the same. Like, the one thing in my truck, and the reason I love older Toyota trucks, and I have an old Land Cruiser that I absolutely love, is seeing over the hood corners. You know, it's really easy. But as we get into some of these newer vehicles, it just becomes a little bit more difficult. And I know, you know, it's just the design trends. Hoods are getting larger. It's just the way things are.
I have to say though, like after looking at the hood scoop, those aggressive like ridges that it's got, it looks so nice.
Oh yeah, no questions asked about
it. Is so nice.
The appearance.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
But it does obstruct the view. That's 100%.
Just a bit. Not to the point where it's like annoying, you're gonna see it, but at the same time, you know, I do prefer the off-road for that reason. I will say, when I drove the TRD off-road, actually off-road, that didn't have the hood scoop, it was much better visibility-wise. I know these mirrors are wet and it's a little difficult to see, but blind spots I feel like are also similar to Gen 3. I have to say, the seating is a lot more improved, at least the angle is more improved. I feel very, very comfortable in this truck. I know that was a complaint in the previous generation with a lot of people. So I feel nice and comfy. I felt nice and locked in when I was driving around tight turns. And also not in this model, but in some of the other ones, there were powered seating controls, which I really appreciate. I know that's not necessarily new to this generation, but my current Tacoma doesn't have that, and I found that to be very useful to adjust the height of the seat, especially when you're, you know, shorter like me. Something else to also think about that's really nice that I certainly appreciate is there is a nice dedicated place for my phone. It's angled up here, but you can see that it's texturized back here, so it's not going to be shaking all around, and there's kind of a little stop over here as well. This thing does have wireless CarPlay, which we didn't have in the previous generation, also wireless Android Auto, so you can just rest your phone here, get it all connected up. But yeah, having a dedicated phone space isn't something I thought about too much, but glad it's here. After driving the Sport, I was also glad to test drive the TRD PreRunner on the road, which is a new grade in this year's lineup and very unique in its own way. For one, it has a leaf spring suspension, but it's sprung under, unlike the last gen, and it also only comes in the 6-foot bed extra cab configuration, so instead of the seats, there was this rear cargo space, which was useful for storing my camera gear this particular day. This one that I drove has an MSRP of $38,100 without options, and again, feel free to pause to look at the sheet. But yeah, this one had a similar feel to the Sport with the same motor, the power was great. Although the handling on the Sport was better in my opinion, the Sport suspension just felt more comfortable overall. But you guys can see the road was pretty wet when I was driving the PreRunner. Nonetheless, I feel like this was still very much a step up from the previous generation. It doesn't ride as stiff, and like the Sport, the electric power steering makes it so easy to drive. Regardless, I'm just impressed by the sheer engineering behind the 2024 Tacoma in general. It really feels like they paid attention to real Tacoma owners and users and implemented big changes that people wanted. But at the same time, they made tweaks in every grade so that there was a truck really for everyone. Just driving the PreRunner and Sport alone this day, it was clear to me they each have a distinct point of view. I know that some of these clips and reactions can come across as overly optimistic, but I genuinely just am really amazed by this new truck.
We're just true enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't contain my excitement.
It is. I've been working with Tacomas for 11 years. For me, this is a very big moment.
Absolutely. I can say the same thing. I daily drive my truck. I also take it off-roading.
You're super passionate about the Tacoma as well. Like,
after saying goodbye to Mateo, again, make sure to check out his video, it was time to hop in this solar octane TRD off-road premium and take it on the dirt, which was an absolute blast. There were some good obstacles, and driving that course honestly was probably the best experience of 2023 if I could quantify it. So be sure to stay tuned for my next video coming very shortly. What do you now think about the 2024 Tacoma? I'm curious if this video changed your impressions in any way. You know, one of the big reasons I was so excited to finally test drive this new truck was the new engine, of course, and I'm not blind to the fact that a lot of people, when they heard the Tacoma was moving from a V6 to a turbo 4-cylinder, it wasn't necessarily their cup of tea. This is kind of the trend here for mid-sized trucks in the States. I think every single 2024 mid-sized truck, with the exception of the Nissan Frontier, is moving to a 4-cylinder motor. But to be fair, it is a good point, and I think it's going to play a big factor in a lot of people's decision. Now, I specifically can't speak on the reliability aspects because I, like you guys, am probably just another consumer. I am not a Toyota engineer, but in my own opinion, I personally believe that Toyota has longevity down for this. To their credit, this is not the first Toyota that's getting a 2.4-liter turbo 4. I know people can go back and forth about this all day, but what I can say with certainty is that from a power perspective, at least compared to the previous V6 model, this truck lives up to the hype.
did you see that?
This thing like goes.
Whoa!
It moves.
Anyways, that is what I thought of driving the 2024 Tacoma for my first time. I of course want to give a huge thank you to Toyota for allowing me to do this, allowing me to film, and I also just hope that this video was useful to you guys. I know a lot of you are like me personally, using your Tacoma or your Toyotas to commute to work, but you're also big time adventurers. So because of that, if you're thinking about the new Tacoma, it's gotta be a solid truck. And honestly, there's no doubt it already is. But this new generation does have a lot of things going for it. And from what I've seen so far and felt so far when driving with it for the first time, it is worth considering, and at least a test drive if you're in the market. Again, be sure to watch my driving reactions video with the TRD Off-Road. I promise that one is good too. And for more 4th gen content, check out my playlist in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching and for all your likes and views and comments over the years. You guys really are the ones that allow me to do really cool stuff like this, and I, again, just hope I'm providing valuable insight or information and content that you want to see, but regardless, I am so grateful for you. Be sure to follow my Instagram at ChloeKuo Taco. I post a lot more on there in real time, and those of you who were following earlier this month when I was actually shooting this content probably got to see all the sneak peeks, so hope you enjoyed that if you were following. But again, thank you guys. Let me know, of course, what you think of the 2024 Tacoma, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.